All right, we are live again. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another live stream. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we are going to talk about if the local top is in, going from $60,000 to 71. Are we seeing a local top of this move? And are we looking at a Bitcoin that is more likely, coming back in the low $60,000 range? That's what we are going to talk about today. And I also want to talk about the reason or the why you shouldn't buy anything right now, as far as, at least from, these other stuff. And when I say these other stuff, I'm talking about altcoins. I'm gonna give you a reason. I'm gonna show you the why you shouldn't buy anything right now, and we'll share with you exactly what you need to wait for. I don't think this is the time to rush into this market. Despite recent price action after the crash, I don't believe this is a time to rush into this market. I don't believe this is a time to dollar cost average into, especially the altcoin market. I don't believe this is the right time to dollar cost average into anything. We will talk about the reason using technical analysis, like we always do. We will talk about what else. We will talk about, I'm gonna share with you guys, exactly what you should wait for, and you make it whatever that fits your strategy, and whatever that you think is best for you. If this is your first time right here, though, just do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. If you're watching the live stream, hit the like button as well. The YouTube algorithm is something that I'm trying to keep up with, because it's really that important. The only way to grow this channel, I gotta be on the side of the algorithm. And the only way to be on the side of the algorithm, you guys are going to have to smash the like button, and you're going to have to subscribe. And if you can comment, right? If you can comment on my videos, if you can engage with my content, all of that is going to help. But before we jump into the charts, I just want to point out quickly, one of the reason this is actually a really good bear market. I think something positive, like extremely positive, that's going to come out of this bear market is that we are more likely to have a complete reset. We are more likely to have a complete reset in this market. And I'm just gonna share with you guys, something really quick, very, very short. I won't waste my time on this, but I joined the cryptocurrency market, or at least I learned about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market in 2017. And back in 2017, you invest in these protocols, or you invest in these coins because of the white paper. All right. You looked at the white paper, you read, you liked what they were promising, in terms of the technologies and the services and products these protocols were going to provide in the future. That was basically majority of your research in terms of the fundamentals. And of course, you looked at the people that were behind the project. You looked at how much money they were raising. If they were well backed, that was a project that was more likely to do well. And that was basically the research back in 2017, guys. But most of the time, you just read the white paper, and if you liked, what was promised, you backed the project, you invested in the project. And then you fast forward to the last bull market. I'm talking about 2019 to 2021. the narrative and people invested based on, and I'm gonna say what actually drove that market, in terms of altcoins. Majority was because of Ethereum. All the stuff that was built on top of Ethereum. Other L1s such as Solana, AVAX, Cardano, and what else? AVAX. Already said AVAX. That was basically the drive of the last bull markets. And of course, you can, get into other narratives, but you get the picture, right? So I think one of the reason this has been the worst bull market for altcoins is because we are 10 years into this research. I'm just going to call this a research paper, guys. At this point, crypto, you can even include Bitcoin in this. At this point, like, this is a research experiment that has been taking place for the last 15 years. And the reason I'm saying that this looks like a research and really a research paper and people are still trying to figure out is because I don't want to say nobody, but most of us aren't using any crypto product or service on a regular basis. Right? Like if the cryptocurrency market was to disappear today, guys, I don't lose anything in my life. Right? I absolutely don't lose anything. So I think we're getting to the point where, you look at the market, it's trillions of dollars. You look at altcoins and you start to ask yourself, why is this worth billions of dollars? Why is Ethereum worth $250 billion? Like, who is using Ethereum on a regular basis? Right? Because Ethereum today is exactly the same Ethereum from 2017, guys, like it or not. Ethereum today is exactly the same Ethereum from 2016, from the beginning of the project. So there's been a failure, all right? There's been a failure in this industry, and the failure is no one is using any crypto products or services, any of these protocols on a daily basis. Like the entire crypto market, guys, including Bitcoin. Right? Maybe there's some value in Bitcoin in terms of, we've seen in the last bear market what was going on in Ukraine. People were using Bitcoin, as a way to still have access to financial markets, as a way to still, have some sort of finance, some sort of money because, maybe their banks, they just couldn't access their banks or, a lot of stuff was happening. All right. But when you think about this other stuff, man, the whole market can disappear today, guys, and you wouldn't lose anything in terms of your day-to-day, regular activities and what you need to survive. Like, you wouldn't lose anything. It's different when it comes to, I'll give you an example. When it comes to something like, Apple, all right? Apple stock. The stock is worth trillions of dollars, but that's because, look at the products. You could look at the services. So I believe crypto investors are more mature right now and very sophisticated. And one of the reason, this market has struggled, this bull market, altcoins more specifically, is because, like, it's been a research. If you actually think about it, guys, it has been a research that has not produced anything. It's been a research, and, who knows where we are with this research. Are we 80% done? Are we 60% done? Are we, like, how far are we? When are we getting to a place where I am actually using Ethereum on a daily basis, even if it's not on a daily basis, but I'm actually using, Ethereum? Like, when are we getting to that place? The only people who are using, crypto, the only people who are using any of this are, just me, you and I, guys. We are just transacting, and no one else is. The outside is not transacting with crypto, Ethereum, any of this stuff. Absolutely not. So I think we have the opportunity to complete reset. And the reason I say complete reset is because I'm on CoinMarketCap right now. And chat, we got over 32 million cryptocurrency projects. Just think about that, guys. We have, as of right now, all right, 6 months from now, this number probably goes higher. But we have over 32 million cryptocurrency tokens. So if you think about the capital that exists in this market, it is spread out thin. And this is why there's only a handful of altcoins that have actually done very well. Because the capital, the liquidity is just not enough to go around. All right, it's not enough to satisfy over 32 million tokens. In 2017, there wasn't 32 million tokens. In the last bull market, there wasn't 32 million tokens. So this bear market, if you take a step back, if you look at this bear market, I think there's an opportunity for the entire market to completely reset. And, if we can go from 32 million tokens to only, maybe a few thousand tokens or maybe a few hundred tokens, because 99.99% of the 32 million tokens are 100% worthless. They don't really have any utility. There's no use case. Nobody's using them. It's a way to scam investors. It is a way to scam the public. So if we can have a complete reset, then I think we come out of this with enormous opportunities in this market. And you can, once again, 20x, 50x, do 100x on, real projects with real utilities, real projects that people are actually going to be interacting with, even if it's not on a daily basis, but at least, in the real world. So I just wanted to get that out. I don't know what you guys think about this, but this is something that needs to be talked about. All right. I do think investors are, very sophisticated, more mature now, very, very smart. And it's time to move on. Like, it's time to have an honest conversation, and it's time to get away from this 32 million junkies. Basically, it's not even tokens; they're just junkies, if we are going to be honest. So, anyways, enough with that. Let's jump into the charts and let's talk about have we seen the top of the move from $60,000, and are we more likely to see a pullback into the low $60,000 range? But I would like to see your opinion in the chat, guys. Like, what do you think, right? Do you think we have suffered from just the lack of producing, real utilities, right? The lack of producing real products and services. Like, do you think that is something that we're lacking? And do you think that may have something to do with the poor performance of altcoins throughout this bull market? I would like to hear your thoughts, guys. Put it in the chat, and then we'll see what you guys think. So let's jump into the charts. All right, so here we have Bitcoin facing major resistance in the short term, and the question is, have we seen the top of this move from $60,000 to $71,000, and are we more likely to see, a pullback into the low $60,000 range? If you look at this trend line right here, that goes from $90,000, and you connect it to our most previous lower high. I'm on the 4-hour right now. This gives us a really nice, beautiful trend line. And you can clearly see, the moment Bitcoin got to the trend line at 71,000, it got rejected. All right, not one time, but two times. We actually we saw four different 4 hourly candles, just right around $71,000. And this is not a coincidence right here. I think this is a place where buyers, those that stepped in the low 60s, are taking profits or are looking to take profits because this is a place where we could potentially get rejected. Another reason why this is becoming a major resistance is because we are currently facing, the 21 moving average. So if you look back at the 21 moving average, ever since this 21 EMA, I'm looking at this blue line right here, guys. Ever since the price has, traded below it, it has been acting as a major resistance. And that goes all the way back from $94,000. So this was our first retest around 90,000. We got rejected. Here we managed to, break above, but surely after that, came back below the moving average again. Here we had another rally, got rejected. Here we had another one, got rejected. So it is no surprise that we are getting rejected again. And the only question now is this a rejection that sends us back into the low $60,000 range? Or is this time going to be different? And are we actually going to, not only break above the 21 moving average, but continue higher? All right. To me, that should be the question. I am a big believer in the trend is your friend until you are proven otherwise. So if you were to ask for my opinion would be that we are more likely to get rejected right here, just like previously, and we're more likely to get a pullback into the low $60,000 range. We don't have to get rejected, all right? There's no certainty in my analysis, but just based on previously, based on how many times price has gone rejected at the 21 EMA throughout this entire downtrend from $90,000, my outlook is that probably the top is in and we get a move back into the low $60,000 range. If we go to the 1 hour, all right, this is also something that I wanted to, also talk about. So on the 1 hour, we got rejected right here. All right, this is a first higher low. Let's see. All right, looks like we are trying this again. Let's see if, we break out or if we get rejected. And more confirmation that the price is coming back into the low $60,000 range is going to be, if we put in a lower high. All right, so if price doesn't make it above $71,000, if we get rejected somewhere around here, that increase the probabilities. Or if we go up and get rejected around here, that also increase, the probabilities. And especially if we go below $67,000. So I'm going to say that in the short term, you're going to have to keep your eyes on Bitcoin because we are at a place where, decisions are being made, very tough decisions. And, let's see what the outcome is going to look like once this is all said and done. When you zoom out and you go to the daily, nothing really has changed in terms of the overall downtrend. I mean, this is a clear picture. We have a Bitcoin that has been in a downtrend since $126,000. Every single move to the upside continues to give us a daily lower high. And every single move to the downside continues to give us a daily lower low. So, based on the trend, my outlook is a very bearish one. And, my outlook is that price will continue to go down once again until I'm proven otherwise. Price needs to prove to me the downtrend is over and that is only possible if we can break above, our most recent high. And that means, we got to get above $97,000. So that is too much to ask for Bitcoin, at least in the short term. On the daily, all right, since we are on the daily time frame, it wouldn't surprise me if we get a daily day cap bounce. And in terms of targets, I'll share with you guys some of my targets. I'm looking at, I think the max I'm looking at $80,000. 80,000 gives the opportunity for the price to come back and retest the 21 moving average. If we don't get to $80,000, there's a very good chance, we stay around the mid $70,000 range for, the foreseeable future. And then after that, my outlook on BTC is that we will continue down. Moving averages are very great indicator in terms of momentum. So when you have a bigger gap, like when the EMAs are away from each other, that is normally a sign of very strong momentum. So if I'm looking at my 21 and my 50, to me, this is extremely bearish. All right. This tells me that the bears are full in control of the market. It tells me that the momentum to the downside is greater than the momentum to the upside. So there's no way I look at Bitcoin and have any bullish bias in my bones. Absolutely not, guys. So that was just, pure technical analysis using price action. If you guys are bigger fans of indicators, different indicators, let's take a look at the super trend. So according to the super trend on the daily, the only way BTC turns bullish is if price was to break above $81,000 and it's actually $81,600. That would be the only way BTC would turn bullish on the daily. All right. If we use the Bollinger Bands, the only way BTC would turn bullish, price will have to break above $82,326. Meaning, as long as the price of Bitcoin is below this blue line, as long as we are below this blue line, every move to the upside, it is nothing but a day cap bounce, and you want to get out of your position, and ultimately we will continue down. So that is what we get from, at least these two indicators right here. And if you are a fan of the Ichimoku cloud, looking at the cloud right here, this does not look good. The further away price is from the cloud, the more the momentum is. In this case, it's a bearish momentum. So this is a very, very significant bearish momentum. This is not looking good. The only way to reverse price is we got to break above the cloud, and we got to see something that looks like this right here, guys. And the reason, when you take a look at this is one of the reason, I don't really use this indicator a lot, but it's always nice to have different tools in your toolbox. But one of the reason I never flipped bullish when the price of Bitcoin was here is because first I needed to see price break above the cloud, and as you guys can see, it actually acted as a resistance, and this is exactly what I was kind of imagining. And look at where we are today. We go from $96,000 down to $60,000. And if you would have dollar cost average, if you would have read this wrong without using other indicators, other tools, and if you would have thought BTC was bullish in the 90s, well, you're looking at a position that is comfortably All right, comfortably minus about 28%. And at some point recently, it was minus 38%. So, ladies and gentlemen, that would be my update on Bitcoin. I gave you guys more of the short term outlook, and I also gave you more of the midterm outlook. The midterm is when I'm looking at the daily. The short term is when I was looking at the 1 hour and the 4 hour time frames. But let me know your thoughts on BTC right now in the next segment of our live stream. I'm going to focus on the reason and the why you shouldn't buy any altcoins right now, because it's just not, it doesn't look good. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button if you're watching. If this is your first time, subscribe to the channel, guys. Smash the like button. Algorithm. We gotta keep up with them. The name of this game is Algorithm. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. Jasmine be testing. Yeah, VWAP is definitely a decent indicator. The thing is that I don't want too much, I don't want too many indicators, because then you rely on indicators. What I like to do is, I like to just look up pure price action first. And then if I want something different, if I want my eye to see something different, I bring up the MACD, bring up the RSI. Sometimes I'm looking for some divergencies. Or I just, simply look at the Bollinger Bands. Like the Ishimoku, I don't really use this. I don't really use this, but you know what? This doesn't hurt to have it on my watch list. When it comes to BTC, I only use it on the weekly. I wouldn't use it on the daily. And most of these indicators, actually, I only use them on the weekly. I want to make sure I'm looking at, those bigger time frame setups. I don't do it on the monthly because it's just not as useful. But if I'm on the weekly, like this one would have been a great buy around 29, 30,000. And you can see the trend was very clear all the way up to $126,000. Even if you go to the last bull market, like you could have grabbed the position even somewhere around $11,000 and you would have done very well. Compared to if you do it on the daily, and chat, look, I'm a swing trader and I tend to hold on to my position for a couple months. Like I really don't trade based on short, like the daily is not a short-term setup, but even the daily, I try to stay away from it. So, but look, on the daily, this would have been a great entry. Like you could have jumped in around, this is this bull market, 61,000 up into the $90,000 range. That would have been a great trade. Here's another one, but I'm more into these indicators when it comes to weekly setup. Like this one was fantastic. Like the super trend was really, really good, for this bull market. You could have jumped in exactly at $22,000 and you could have exited at $96,000. So to me, this is a really good way to use these indicators. If I'm looking at this, like in the last bull market, you could have grabbed the position around $10,500. You would have exited around 35. And most of the time, guys, look, you don't want to wait for your, for these indicators to give you an exit, like an exit signal, because, if your entry is $10,000 and the price is in the 60s, if you're not taking profits, I don't want to say something's wrong with you, but if it reverses back to the downside, like the only person you should blame is yourself. Take some profits along the way, and then when the indicator flips bearish, get out the market completely and wait for the reset. So speaking of indicators, if I'm looking at the super trend on the weekly, the only way for BTC to flip bullish, we will have to break above $99,500. Look, the same way I trusted this this indicator from 22,000 up to 126,000, I have to trust it to the downside. Like I know there's plenty of people out there, they look at indicators and they say, "Hey, these are lagging. These are lagging stuff. Why should I trust something that's lagging?" Well, 22,000, that got you, it got you into a position of 22,000. It got you out of a position around 96,000. If you can't trust that, then look, even your own system, guys, is going to have flaws. All right, every strategy, every system, it doesn't matter if it's pure price action, if it's indicators, they are all going to have flaws. Nobody knows where the top is. Nobody knows where the bottom is. The name of the game is to get in as early as possible, not at the bottom of the pullback or the bottom of the bear market. Get in as early as possible and try to get out. All right, try to get out not as early as possible, but try to get out before the things hit the fan. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, the VWAP is great, but the reason I don't have it is because I just got way too many indicators. And I don't want to add too much. Like I don't want to be one of those people. Have you seen one of those people, their charts look like this? Like they got so much going on that you can't even see the price. Like I don't want to be one of those people. First and foremost, I want to see the price. I want to be able to see the price. I want to see how the market is behaving because price action is absolutely everything. And then after that, my eyes, they want to see something else, maybe a different color. I go to the super trend. I go to my moving averages, the 50 weekly. This is a really good indicator, in my opinion. Some people don't like it, but hey, it's fine. Look at the 21 weekly moving average. Some people don't like it, but once again, perfectly fine with me. All right, so yeah, what I want to do now is, I want to talk about why this is not the right time to not just forget about dollar cost average because, that is something else. But why this is not the right time to get into this market? I think you're making a very big mistake if you are jumping into this market right now. There is not a reason to be in a rush. There is not a single reason to be in a rush. You don't have to do anything. You can simply stay on the sideline. Cash is a position. Like it or not, cash is also a position, guys. And being on the sideline is also a position. So I want to talk about that. But before we do, just give me a second. Let me grab something to drink. And then when I say something to drink, I'm not talking about alcohol, people. I'm talking about water. Let me grab some water and I'll be right back. All right. Here we go. So let's talk about why there is no need to be in a rush to jump into this market. Patience is extremely important if you want to do very well. You want to have some patience, and if you can be patient for the next couple months, then I think you are going to be rewarded. If you can be patient for the next couple months, I really, really, really believe that you are going to be rewarded. So let's talk about it. Just give me a second, chat. Let's talk about patience, and let's talk about. All right, let's go. So there is not a reason to jump into the altcoin market right now. You need to have some patience because this is more likely to take some time. This is more likely to go on for majority of 2026. And when you zoom out and you look at the altcoin market, the charts looks really bad. All right. If you look at the technicals, they don't look good. And I'm gonna give you guys, a few examples using Solana, XRP, even Zcash, and a few other altcoins. I'm gonna share with you guys exactly what you need to see. Right? And when you watch this, if you are a day trader, this is not for you. This is for those of you guys who are interested in positioning yourself and staying in a position for 3, 6, 12, 18 to 24 months. If that is you, if you are interested in Solana from below $30 all the way up into the $200 range, this is going to be the video that you must watch this video right here, guys. So you don't need to rush into a position because the setup is just not there. Let's use the last bear market, and I'm going to give you guys just a few very simple examples. And if you can implement what I'm about to explain to you, I think you are going to be very successful in the next bull market. You see, what you need to see is this. Very simple, guys. Go on the weekly and pull up your 21 weekly moving average. You want to wait for Solana to do this. You want to wait for Solana to break above your 21 weekly moving average. You want to wait for Solana to retest your 21 weekly moving average. And you want to wait for a bounce. Those are the three requirements. You want to wait for Solana to break above 21 weekly. You want to wait for a pullback to the 21 weekly moving average. You want to wait for a bounce. And once you get a bounce, that is your buy signal. That is when you should buy Solana. So in the last bear market, when the price of Solana was around $8, that was not a buy opportunity. Not based on the strategy right here, chat. You would have had to wait for the price to go all the way up to the 21 weekly moving average. All right. You would have had to wait for a pullback to retest the 21. This one did not retest the 21. We lost the 21. You would have had to wait for this other push, and then this other pullback, and then this other push, and then this pullback right here, and this right here, guys. All right, this would have been when you would have bought Solana. This was the candle right here. So the week of October 16, 2023, between $22 and $29, that would have been the signal to buy Solana. And you would have done very well in this bull market. Until you get something like this, I am telling you right now, stay on the sideline. Do not do anything. Even if the price of Solana was to go back to $150, all right? Don't do anything because it doesn't meet your requirement. You want to wait until the bear market is officially over, all right? You want to wait until the bear market is officially over, and you want to wait until the uptrend is finally confirmed. So that is Solana. Let's use Zcash as another example. if you were going to be a Zcash holder, when was the right time to accumulate Zcash? Well, let me show it to you. Zcash would have been a buy around here, around the week of September of 2024. Price of Zcash spent, plenty months trying to break and stay above the 21 weekly moving average. Every single one of the moves ended up being a fake out. It wasn't until right here, July of 2024, we had this weekly rally from $15 all the way up to 45. And then we had a pullback, and this is a pullback that bounced off the 21 weekly, and we closed the week at $35. So this would have been your buy signal. Between $28 and $35, that would have been the time to buy Zcash, and you should have stayed in your position. Zcash, of course, guys, went on to go from $35 all the way up to $78, almost $80, going up 127%. Unfortunately, we got a significant pullback just right after that. But you had another opportunity to get back into a position, and that was sometimes in August of 2025. You have a rally above the 21 weekly. Guys, you got to wait for the pullback. The pullback is extremely important, and you want to wait for the bounce. And then you had a pullback right here. And then we had a bounce, and price closed around $50. So at $50, that would have been the time to jump into a position. And of course, guys, price of Zcash going from $50 all the way up to around $700, that was a 13x. That is your strategy. That should be the strategy to implement in the next bull market. All right, if you want to be a buyer, you want to wait for exactly what I'm showing you right here. Let's take a look at something else so you guys don't think I am cherry picking. All right, what else do you want to see? Should we look at SUI? All right, the same strategy would have worked with SUI exactly right here, guys. Price. All right, remember, we're waiting for a price to break above the 21, and we wait for a pullback that stays above the 21 weekly. Price of SUI goes above the 21 weekly, we get a pullback, and then we bounce above the 21 weekly moving average. And guess what, guys? This right here should have been your entry. All right, around $1. So between 93 cents to $1 should have been your entry. And if you look at what the performance would have been at the time, entry are around $1 all the way up to $5. This was a 370% move. All right, 370% move. Okay, what else is out here? Even back here, you could have jumped in around 75 cents, and you would have done pretty well because we went from 75 all the way up to $2.16, which was a 200% move. All right. Shall we take a look at XRP? XRP, the same strategy. Your entry could have been right here. All right, this one a little bit more choppy, but that's perfectly fine. XRP breaks above 21 weekly. XRP gives you a pullback. XRP bounces above the 21 weekly. Your entry should have been around 57 cents. You can say, okay, you could have gotten in right here, or you could even gotten in right here. As long as price managed to close above the 21 weekly, that is your buy trigger. Like, that's when you should jump into a position. Or even if you don't get in right here, guys, you could have jumped in around 60 to 70 cents. Let's say you kind of waited right here. The moment price broke above, 66 cents, that gave you a weekly higher high. You could have jumped into a position right there. Or, a late entry could have been exactly at $1 after the weekly was closed. And even if you would have got in at $1, you would have done very well because XRP went on to go up, another 230%. So this is a very simple strategy that many of you guys can utilize, it's not giving you an entry at the absolute bottom of the bear market or at the absolute bottom of the pullback, but it is giving you an entry early on in an uptrend. And if the project, goes up and do a 10x or a 20x, you are going to capture the majority of the move. You are going to capture the meat of the move. So this is exactly, all right, this is exactly why I continue to push this. It's not even a narrative. This is why I continue to push this movement of you don't need to do anything right now. You need to stay on the sideline because, setups for entries are just not there yet. Not only are they not there, like we have a completely different regime. Like this is a market that is trending down, guys. This is a market that is in a clear downtrend. So I don't know what's the rush. I don't know what, I don't know. I don't know what the rush is all about. Personally, I have no idea. But the last thing I would do right now is getting into any of these altcoins. Absolutely not, guys. All right. I don't know. I don't know what to say, to be very honest. Even Dogecoin, all right? The same strategy could have worked with Dogecoin. So Dogecoin, the entry, you could say the entry could have been around here. Yeah, the entry could have been around here, around 7 cents. Price breaks above the 21 weekly. Remember, we're looking for a retest. Retested a 21 weekly, bounced above the 21 weekly moving average. So you could have bought Dogecoin around 7, 8 cents, even though the low of the pullback or the bear market was around 5 cents. Remember, we're not here for the lows. We're not here for the bottom of the bear market or the pullback. What we are more interested in is early on in an uptrend and trying to maximize, whatever we get from the market. That is the only thing that we care about. And I'm telling you right now, all right, you don't have the setup. The setup is just not there yet. You're going to have to wait for the price to break above your 21 weekly moving average. You are going to have to wait for the retest. You are going to have to wait for the bounce above the 21 weekly. And then you can jump into a position. All right. The probabilities of making profits, right, once your rules are met is way, way higher. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. But I'll give you a different strategy. This one, you don't have to do anything as far as trying to identify if, the market is trending up with higher highs and higher lows. All you got to do is follow the super trend. XRP, Dogecoin, super trend on the weekly, it is a terrible indicator. All right, this is a terrible indicator. And the reason is because during this pullback right here, we were still in an uptrend, but the super trend would have gave you a sell signal. All right, but let's use something else such as the Bollinger Bands. All right, based on the Bollinger Bands. Now this one right here too, because we had this big pullback. Price goes into a bear market territory for a brief moment, but wait until price breaks above this blue line on the weekly. Then you should jump into a position. Now, personally, I like to see a pullback first. I don't like to just jump in because price has broken above the blue line, which is my 20 weekly moving average. But basically, the Bollinger Bands, if the price is above the blue, you are in a bull market territory or in a bullish territory. If price is below the blue, you are basically in a bear market territory. So if I'm looking at this, if I'm looking at the Bollinger Bands, I'm not touching Dogecoin or any of these altcoins until price managed to get above the 20 weekly moving average. If I'm looking at Solana, all right, in the last bull market, my entry could have been, remember, it's never perfect. My entry could have been, guys, look, exactly the same entry as when I was just looking at it with, my own strategy. But my entry could have been somewhere around 20, whatever, 22 all the way up to $29. That would have been your entry. That would have been the perfect time to jump into a long Solana position. So if we're looking at Solana right now, guys, like we are so far from, having a setup that provides, risk to reward. We don't have a setup that provides the entry. We are going to have to be patient. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. This thing is going to crash all the way back here, guys. Like all the way down into probably the $20, $30, $40 range, before we get some sort of a setup. And this is going to take some time. So to be in a rush in this market doesn't really make any sense to me. All right. Why would anyone try to get into something in a market that is in a clear long-term downtrend? Clear, all right, like a clear long-term downtrend. Dollar cost average is not going to. Look, if you dollar cost average, not only are you taking on the risk of potentially losing it all, but you are going to underperform those who are waiting on the sideline, right? You are more likely to underperform those waiting on the sideline if you are dollar cost averaging right now, right? It doesn't really make any sense. Like there is not a single token in the market right now that is worth dollar cost averaging into, all right? And you need to stay away from these influencers, guys like Raoul Pal, who are, chat, let me show you one of the worst. This is one, listen, I get stuff wrong, but this one right here, this is one of the absolute worst take on this market. I was looking at this and I said, oh my God. Look at this thread right here, guys. I mean, you guys, you tell me, look, Raoul Pal on September 17 was posting, looks like it's going to be go time for Sui. Sui was around $3.76, chat. You look at Sui right now, man, and I have been telling you guys, this is most likely a 40 cents token. All right? And it could potentially go lower. You look at Sui is currently down to $1. All right? When he posted that, Sui was right up here, guys. We were 376. 376 is right here, chat. You go from 376 down to $1. It is down 70%. I haven't seen this guy come online and say, hey, I have some invalidations. You should have exited this position because actually this was not a good looking chart. I have been screaming on YouTube right here, guys. I don't have as many followers as him. He's got 1 million followers. He's got 1.3 million followers. I have been screaming, get away from Sui when the price was above $2. Right? When the price was above $2, guys, I was screaming, don't do anything. There's going to be a bear market rally, but that is it. Recently when Sui had his bear market rally from down here all the way up to $2, I told you guys it's going to crash. Look, you go from the $2 range to right here, it's currently down 57%. That is not the only one, guys. You look at this entire thread. He's looking at Sui Ethereum. I guess it was closer to a breakout. He was looking at Sui Solana. It's bouncing at key levels. This is September 17. This freaking thing was well, I'm not looking at this chart, but Sui USD was breaking down. All right? Unbelievable, guys. So I'm looking at this thread right here and I'm going, look at these comments. Look at these comments. I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, God damn it. I hope none of you guys bought Sui in the higher $3 range, and you're now bag holding, this altcoin. I mean, it's a disaster. So you gotta stop listening to these influencers. Look, if you go to X, man, I mean, people. They want to be blind to the reality, but perfectly fine with me. But watch streams like this. All right, watch streams like this, guys. All right, look at this. If Ethereum, look, if we lose, I'm not saying we're gonna lose these lows right here. I mean, I don't even know what he's looking at Ethereum log. Yo, like you lose, these levels, it could potentially, you're looking at back to retesting $1,000. Now, I'm not saying we're gonna lose them because this could potentially be the flow, and it could potentially be the beginning of actually going back to, $4,400. But for me, if I'm looking at Ethereum, I say to myself, patience. All right, let's be a little bit more patient. Let's see how this plays out because who knows, right? Who knows how this is all going to play out? But if I'm looking at Ethereum, though, I'm not going to lie, this looks really good in terms of, if we were to close this week above $2,100, which is, we're getting a weekly close tomorrow. Like a week like this, guys, this tells you a lot. All right, something like this tells you a lot. And as much as I have been extremely bullish on Ethereum, and I have been predicting that Ethereum could potentially come all the way back here, guys. Once we close like this, what I would do is I would go down to the 1 hour, and I need to see a bullish setup. All right, let me bring my 200 moving average. I am coming down on this 1 hour right here, and I need to see a bullish setup. And if we can clear, I think if we can clear like $2,400. Now, I'm not waiting until $2,400 is clear. I need to see some structures. If we can pull up some structures right here, something like this, trust me, my outlook on Ethereum changes, and I start looking at Ethereum from a bullish perspective. If you go back to the last time we had the same weekly pullback, all right, this was a pullback right here, and we ended up around $1,300. All right, let me show you the process. So if you look at this weekly close, like this was a very positive weekly close right here, guys. The fact that, we wicked down but ended up closing the week above, $1,500. If you go down to the 1 hour, you can clearly see the development of that bottom, right? Damn, did I lose what I was? There we go, right here, guys. Look at the development of this bottom right here. So if you on the 4 hour, we had a double bottom. All right, this looks like a double bottom right here. And then we go up and then we consolidate. And then the moment we broke above, $1,600, the moment we broke above $1,600, to me, that was the bottom confirmation. All right, the moment we broke above this. So if I'm looking at, and then when you go to the 1 hour, what's going on with my 1 hour? Here we go. The 1 hour is right. No, this is the one right now. So the 1 hour will be, the 1 hour will be right here. So basically almost kind of the same play with the 4 hours. So you can clearly see we got some higher highs and then a series of higher highs, and then, we got the breakout. So I would need to see I don't want to say exactly the same thing, but I need to see a structure developing. So if I'm looking at Ethereum right now, so far, I don't see a structure. Why do I not see a structure? Well, guys, I need some pullbacks, man. I don't want this pullback. I need a real pullback. Maybe something where, price comes all the way back here and then we do something. So I need to see something. All right. As of right now, I need to get above $2,400, but it doesn't, we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait until $2,400. If we can put in some, local top around here, That is all we need to take care of. So if we get a pullback, we rally again, pullback, boom. This is my confirmation. I'm willing to, load up right here with stop losses just right below this, just in case I'm wrong. But yeah, I need to see some structures. Structure. That is the name of the game. Anyways, chat, I just gave you an hour. Hopefully that was helpful. Stay away from moon boys who are only looking at the market from just one price going up lens. And, don't forget to do your research. This is not financial advice. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow.